I've kept every oath I ever made. You seemed to intend to disappoint her.
Fascinating. Responding. Information required.
question. Now here comes Marina. Oh! Look at that kendo stick.
Foundational Women's Tournament set for one fall. Approaching the ring first. Now.
It's like some, well, I'll stop. Let me not say what. Draped across the neck. In the wrestling business of fake and phonies. I mean, they just genuine article. Not really. He's nice. That middle turnbuckle and now Sky on the move. Just a world.
Everyone wants the Elder Scrolls 6, and I'm here to tell you, it's not even in development yet. And no, you heard me correctly, the Elder Scrolls 6 is not even in development yet, and yes, I do have evidence to support my claim. In fact, I actually have quite a lot of evidence to support my claim. Because you see, while Bethesda and Todd have pretty much stated nothing over the years about the current state of Elder Scrolls 6, they have given us a lot of information about the state and the inner state of how Bethesda is doing things and working, especially in conjunction with things like Starfield. And when you put all of that in a timeline, the Elder Scrolls 6 doesn't exist. It literally cannot exist if Bethesda and Todd have not lied about pretty much the last 10 years of their existence. Yes, it gets pretty crazy. So, recently, because of the Xbox game showcase, the Bethesda part, Bethesda did something that no one ever thought possible. They united gamers in what can only be described as hatred. Because we got absolutely not even the slightest news about the Elder Scrolls 6, which does not make any sense unless the game is literally 10 to 15 years away from being finished, or even close to being finished. And I think that's what's happening. Previously, I did think that there's really two possibilities. One, the Elder Scrolls 6 gets dropped pretty much this year, or it's not even 10 years close to being released. And, well, it looks like the latter because they would not lose this opportunity to showcase it. And especially because of their newer response to the criticism that gamers had. And by the way, this is just more proof. If you're a gamer, complain, criticize anyone who says that you shouldn't complain or demands constructive criticism is just a loser trying to sway you off path. This is criticism and things like that are the way that we get results. We would never have this sentence from everyone's favorite Mad Booty if people did not criticize Bethesda, and this happened yesterday. I would say one of the most challenging balancing acts of someone in a job like mine is balancing that you want to go show the world all the cool stuff you're working on and you want to get them excited early. But we also know that we want to wait till the right moment. If the Elder Scrolls 6 is even close as like 2 or 3 years, they would probably show something. This is a completely normal take if we're talking about a timeline of, 5 years ago we started developing something. So we're a little bit ways off, so we're not gonna just show people anything to get them unnecessarily hyped. You know, if you just started development on something, this would not apply for the Elder Scrolls. And keep in mind, all of this criticism, all of this backlash is because of the Elder Scrolls. This is just me setting up things, by the way. We're gonna go into the actual timeline in a bit. And when you decide to show it, you want it to be the best you've got. And also that when you show the game, you're also giving them a promise of, hey, it's coming soon. The irony of the fact that the Elder Scrolls 6 trailer is probably older than... It is at the point where some people have grandchildren now. So I can tell you, having visited Bethesda and sat with Todd and seen Elder Scrolls playing, it looks amazing, and it's fake. And it's coming along well, and we're making sure to announce it and really reveal it at the right time. All of this sounds like they have nothing to reveal, honestly, and that nothing there. Because nothing is there. And you know how we can know it? The easiest way possible. It's what Bethesda has said themselves. Bethesda has revealed some very interesting facts about the Elder Scrolls 6 and about itself. Facts that most people kind of don't even, most of the time, think that are noteworthy. And one of these facts is that the Elder Scrolls 6 will be developed on the Creation Engine 3. The Creation Engine is Bethesda's in-house engine that allows all of the modding and things like that. And the noteworthy part here is Elder Scrolls 6 on the Creation Engine 3. Now, why does this matter a lot? Well, it matters a lot because Starfield, Bethesda's newest game, was made on Creation Engine 2?
I command as I am commanded.
So, Bethesda currently has literally only one game on Creation Engine 2, and it's Starfield. And they want to do Elder Scrolls 6 on Creation Engine 3? What? That alone is confusing, but when you really start into looking the dates that we have, for example, the Starfield development timeline, it's effectively considered that Starfield has been over 7 to 8 years in development, which means that this bad boy effectively started development in roughly 2015. Okay, this means that Bethesda, for probably a couple of years before that, was developing the Creation Engine 2, so they can make Starfield and presumably the Elder Scrolls 6. And this is, by the way, also in a timeline roughly after Fallout 4, I guess would be the right time. So we have that situation, okay? So for some reason, Bethesda only wants to put Starfield on the Creation Engine 2. And then it's going to be the Creation Engine 3. How? So you're telling me, if Bethesda is even halfway done at this point with the Elder Scrolls 6, and the Creation Engine is done, that means that somehow Bethesda started making Creation Engine 2, and then while the Creation Engine was freshly done and they began work on Starfield, they instantaneously started making Creation Engine 3 for no reason? I couldn't find the article, but there is also an article of Bethesda saying, we understand that Creation Engine 2 is not good enough for Elder Scrolls 6, so we're gonna upgrade it. And this is, by the way, where the Creation Engine 2.5 stuff begins. There's not a lot of information about it. I couldn't find the articles. I couldn't find the video. But the Creation Engine 2.0 is a thing because Starfield is not good enough, so they're upgrading the Creation Engine 2.0 for Starfield. Since Creation Engine 2 is improved version of Creation Engine 1, and Creation Engine 3 is presumably an increased version and better version of Creation Engine 2, then why the fuck are they making a Creation Engine 2.5? What's the point of it? You could just shift over Starfield to Creation Engine 3 if it's already finished. But you see, it's not actually finished. That's the thing. The Creation Engine 3 doesn't exist. Because it doesn't make sense that they would do all of this thing uniquely for Starfield while they were already working on Fallout 76. They already made all of this, and they're just making two engines roughly at the same time. Because again, if Creation Engine 3 is real, and Elder Scrolls 6 has already been started, that means that they roughly finished Creation Engine 2 to make Starfield, and then the next day they started work on Creation Engine fucking 3 for some reason for the Elder Scrolls 6. And again, remember when the Elder Scrolls 6 announcement trailer was done? That would imply if they release the trailer for Elder Scrolls 6, then they would at least have an engine to work on. So you're effectively telling me, if Creation Engine 3 is real, that they just decided to make Starfield on an already outdated engine for no reason. And that makes no sense. The timeline fully makes no sense. The timeline of Creation Engine and then Creation Engine 2 becoming real with Starfield is perfectly sound, logical, and understandable. But the fact that the Elder Scrolls 6 is gonna be made on Creation Engine 3 by Bethesda's birds themselves, by the way. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. It just does not make sense. It makes sense more that the Creation Engine 2.0 is gonna be what they make the Elder Scrolls on. But if that's true, the Creation Engine 2.0 is kinda just ready. So, best case realistic scenario, if we're looking at the Creation Engine 2.0 upgraded version, a type of deal, that maybe the Elder Scrolls 6 has been in development for maybe a year at this point. Yes, the Elder Scrolls 6 most likely doesn't exist because of what Bethesda themselves have said about their in-house engine and how that's doing. It's ridiculous. So yeah, expect Elder Scrolls 6 probably in a minimum of 5 years, in case Microsoft decides to put a lot of cash in that, because something strange is happening with Bethesda, because Microsoft is not punishing them for failures. And my god, do they have a fucking lot of failures currently. They do have a... Slop pipe enjoyers, activists that never buy the game, and my personal favorite, low pattern recognizers, are currently losing their minds over the Fable situation. I have not honestly seen something so bad, so disingenuous in quite a bit of time. Since the first initial Fable trailer drop, people were already looking at it and then saying, wow, this is modern garbage. This is woke trash. And after yesterday's gameplay reveal, the situation is much worse. At this point, it seems like pretty much absolutely no one believes that Fable is gonna be good. No one believes that it's gonna be successful, fun, interesting, or anything. And the greatest sin in gaming is obviously making a boring game. And Fable looks very boring, very dull. I mean, there's a reason why yesterday they only showed like 30 seconds of combat, because they couldn't even be bothered to make more than 2 different looking female guards. Well, more than one. It was literally the same female guard repeated 5 times if you paid attention. It was bad. It was legendarily bad. And today, because of that, people are losing their minds. Because some people are extremely dedicated in the culture war, and they need Fable to be the success it always deserves to be. And it's bad, okay? It's bad. These people are literally now demanding that you ignore what's right in front of your eyes, you ignore your own experiences, and just believe that it's actually gonna be good. And if you don't believe, and if you think it's bad, you should probably shut up and not say anything. Oh, it is bad. And this is one of the better crash outs that we currently have here. You're gonna love this. We have a lot more. But this is from Goch Joe, okay? Someone who makes indie games, by the way, Lamau. Everyone's saying Fable will be trash, and they're lying about what they promised. I think it was supposed to be promised, but whatever. Dude, it's a new studio making it. Lies. It's not a new studio. A studio where their last 4 games have been critically acclaimed. Now, granted, he completely is just omitting the information that the 4 games that were critically acclaimed were all racing games, because this is the studio that made Forza Horizon. People like dogging on anything without doing research. Playground Games has never missed in making a Forza game. I guess that's true. They have literally never even created a single human NPC. And if you look at what Fable looks like, I mean, it's sadly, blatantly visible that they have never designed a human being before. But that's fine, that's fine. So, this is not even, by the way, the start of the crash out, because all of the good crash outs continue in the comment section. And needless to say, there's a bunch of lies here, because all these people can do is demand that you listen to their lies and ignore what you see right in front of you. It's crazy. Like, we see the bad gameplay, we see the poor storytelling, we see the disgusting looking characters, and this person is unironically, the last 4 games that they made were all successes, so this is also gonna be good. I wish I was, I wish I also had 50 IQ so I can enjoy myself more. Imagine being this simple-minded. Oh, because thing was good before, it's always gonna be good in the future. It's just blissful ignorance at its best, honestly. And then we're gonna get in the comments. Seems my post left my circle. That is such a crazy self-admission, by the way. It's kind of hilarious, but that you literally just are making a post to appease your own circle. That you're afraid to a certain degree that it actually leaves the safety of the people who are gonna say, yes, Queen Slay, you're the best. That is such a pitiful way to live your life. Yes, Playground Games typically made racing games. Not typically, literally only racing games, by the way. Critically acclaimed. Of financially successful ones. Yeah, like that matters a lot. So, you know who else was successful previously? Ubisoft, BioWare, Blizzard Entertainment. Do I need to keep going? Probably not. Bethesda. They're a brand known for quality assurance, audience testing, and successful games. Like, what? Amazing. This is a person who sees a piece of shit wrapped in paper and he looks in the ingredients list and it says edible gold and he's like, oh my god! It's actually edible gold, not shit, even though it smells like shit and everything else. That is something to trust, regardless of genre.
Culminates in one shot.
Dude, imagine going this hard to defend something that you're not even getting paid for. Forza Horizon sold 30 million copies, by the way. The newest one is also currently the highest rated game of 2026. Yeah, the Forza game's pretty good, by the way. A lot of people are saying good things about it. Just because a chef is making a new dish doesn't mean they can't cook. While I'm excited about leaving out that this is their first time making a game like this is pretty disingenuous. Being good at making a racing game doesn't mean basically anything here. It's not net positive or negative, especially irrelevant outside graphics. Plenty of developers swap genres. There's a lot more at play than just that. Like what, for example? If a studio has knocked it out of the park 4 times, that speaks volumes about their quality control, their audience testing, their brand. We don't even know if they actually do audience testing. Audience testing, by the way, is a term used for movies. When people get to see the movie and then they rate it and then the movie gets changed accordingly. I'm not even sure that that's called audience testing in gaming. Their brand means a company won't just throw garbage out. Such a simple life. They missed with every NPC and character design thus far. And again, the insanity here is just beautiful. Bro, Fable is known for ugly-ass characters, lol. It might as well take place in the same universe as Shrek. regardless, you've only seen one town. I'm sure 1,000 NPCs, there's variety. And this is like the example of Fable's poor design. But this is, needless to say, already better than that. And, I mean, it just goes on. If you want to pause and read some of these replies, go ahead. They are absolutely phenomenal. It's just insanity. And this is one of the... This was one of the easiest comparisons that people have. This is what the things used to look like in Fable 20 billion years ago when the dinosaurs were walking dirt. This is now, okay? We're not even gonna mention, by the way, the trans child that they have in this game, like right around somewhere here. Yeah, there you go. That child right there, and everything else. Okay, just this is already bad enough. And people are making fun of the Fable protectors because one of my favorite things on Twitter is probably the Synth Potato. I don't know if this guy is just low IQ or he's a shill or whatnot, but this is a guy whose ability to discern good things from bad things seemingly has went in the negative and has been in the negative for a very long time. This is the guy who said Dragon Age the Veilguard previews are so glowing that it might end up a contender for Game of the Year if it actually lives up to what we are hearing. Bro, you saw it and you, like, I don't understand. Like, how do you live your life by having eyes and then you just choose to see something and you're like, nope, that never happened, I'm gonna just listen to what other people say. Only the people who say that never happened. But yeah, really great to see a huge potential amazing RPG on its way. What an opinion. Needless to say, we already know how that fucking ended up. And my favorite part about Synth Potato is that, man, that's a petty fucker. He's literally here replying to this. And as always, calling someone a grifter. Why do you all grifters keep sharing that screenshot as if it's a bad thing to hope a game ends up good? It's not a bad thing. Hoping that the game ends up good. I hope that games end up good. I hope I'm wrong about Fable and it's actually the best thing since sliced bread. But that's just me hoping. Realistically, I know it's gonna be a disaster. If you have seen Dragon Age Veilguard, I don't know how you can have the opinion unless you're lying, unless you're being disingenuous, or unless you're just chilling and saying, oh yeah, Dragon Age Veilguard looked so good. From the most earliest previews, it did not look good. I recognize pretty much almost all of the problems. The fact that the level layouts were shit. The fact that a lot of creatures look like damage sponges and the damage and the combat is super simplified. And that's not obviously, by the way, talking about all the other things like the designs, the Vogue designs. Except Bellara, she's my wife. You cannot speak ill about her. I will have half-elf babies, thank you. Anyway, degeneracy aside, I absolutely love this. This guy has, I'm pretty sure, replied every single time to any critique about him just calling someone shill. Anyways, people who judge games off how characters look are pretty much always right, because always judge a book by its cover. It has been a rule for 20 years now, and not off game mechanics. We also see game mechanics. We saw game mechanics for Veilguard and Fable. We know they're bad. Should never be taken seriously, including you. I love that every defense is just calling someone a shill. Oh, how terrible. Yeah, it's just pretty bad. These facial animations in Fable are looking really rough, if I'm honest. Again, every single person's opinion here is this. The level of fidelity in these faces themselves is impressive. No, it's not. Absolutely no, it's not. But the NPCs are lacking facial expressions and seem very stiff. They don't seem very stiff. The lip syncing is completely off. We saw this yesterday. They open their mouths where no sound is coming, and they close their mouths when sound is coming out. Really hope by the time the game is out, the devs manage to fix them. And again, this is funny because this is the most nonchalant, I hope they fix the type of comment ever, and it still turns obviously into a shit show. P.S. P.S. This is a pre-release build and work in progress. No, it's not! Fable's supposed to have... Fable is supposed... Wait, when is Fable was supposed to come out? When is GTA dropping? November. Fable is supposed to come out in fucking 6 months, less than 6 months at this point. Yeah, like five months or something. Less than 5 months even, actually, day by day. And they still haven't even fixed something as basic, and by the way, not fast to fix, as lip syncing and facial animations. That's not a good thing. That sounds horrible. That's something that should have been already done. They're also having to redo the character because this thing is not real. The reason they're showing this off is to say, oh, look, we actually always had a male cat. No, you did not. They never had a male character. Because of the outrage of the fact that you can't even choose character gender. Which are probably not going to call gender, obviously. Body type A, body type B. Because of that, they were forced to do this. They only now fixed the gay walk, and now instead of that, you have the I just got railed from behind walk of shame type of walk. Which is not a lot better, in my honest opinion. I'm sure by February, facial animations in Fable will be much better, simply blah blah blah. And then someone just dropped this. Beautiful.
No, you'll tell me where it is. I do that, you'll have no reason to let me live. So you won't tell me where...
Yeah. So this was Ubisoft's billion trillion, you know, Ubisoft, the quadruple A production company, quadruple A gaming production company that believes that we do not own the games that we buy. Well, I personally believe in that case that piracy is not theft. In any case, yeah, maybe because of Fable we were a little bit too hard on Assassin's Creed Shadows facial animations, how they look, because man, at least they can move the mouth when the birds are coming out. Fable can't fucking even do that. In any case, some people are doing the pre-release build work in progress. This is not a pre-release build, this is a fully done game. Companies in the last couple of months until release, big bugs an issue. Okay, this is not a pre-release build work in progress. This is a already done game, 99% complete. Okay? So stop saying that, and no one believes you. A step into Albion and discover what it means to live an extraordinary life. Build relationships, shape your blah blah blah. Yeah, did not go well, did not go well. Gifts you can hear, okay? And obviously this is a special type of crowd, if you know what this is, okay? I miss you, Albion. And then someone posed this, and there's no reply for some reason. Very strange. No thanks. Your company destroyed the franchise with wokeness and gamer bird. Flat boobs, ugly females pass. Going to buy still and play for the third time on Nintendo Switch 2 instead. Based? Can you still be evil? No. No, evil is a spectrum, Chud. And by the way, I love that the fact that the two things that people previously were unhappy about Fable was exactly not having any moral choices, and well, the not being able to pick your thing. And now, by the way, people are currently also extremely mad about the fact that we didn't see any gameplay as a child, which I think is gonna be a throwaway garbage thing that people are gonna hate anyway, because there's no way these devs actually cared enough to flesh that out and make it fun or interesting or whatever. But in any case, they pretty much have changed everything. Well, like, for example, in this gameplay section, do you notice how much they talked about, oh, these choices are like moral choices, but they're not moral choices, but they're really like moral choices. Like, bro, you were so proud about the fact that you're going full modern, removing the good choices, the evil choices, because morality is a spectrum. And someone stabbing my family is not necessarily a bad thing because I'm not racist.
In obedience.
Any case, moving on. Yeah, they really tried hard to tell you that these choices that you're making are moral choices, but morality doesn't exist. It's kind of funny. These people have completely, by the way, caved to the feedback that they got. It is pretty insane. Next up, I'm pretty sure we're gonna see some gameplay as a child or whatever, because, well, you know, that's gonna be it. Oh, actually, I'll go for this one. Okay, and this is not exactly Fable, but this is just so you actually have a comparison, because this is just how bad things really are.
And she doesn't. And one of the best feedback that we've had about this game and the people who are playing the demo is the men are getting this confidence, this kind of Lara Croft charisma and sheen. It's not just one for the women, it's the girls, it's the guys, it's the gays, it's everyone's loving it. So it just...
Yes. Wasn't said about Fable, but you kind of get this point. People currently are laughing about this because this is the state of Lara Croft and Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider isn't just for girls. It's for the girls, the boys, and the gays. But what the fuck hell? But what the fucking hell is this shitty marketing? Yes, they're trying to market games currently as not only for the girlies, okay? Because obviously video games are... I'm surprised Fable isn't doing this, honestly. I'm surprised Fable is not telling you, this is for the day-dems, this is for the she-shers, this is for the Zers, and all of that garbage. I'm surprised Fable is not doing this, honestly. This is why I wanted to tell you this. But this is pretty insane, by the way. This is the current situation with Tomb Raider, which is kind of insane considering the current Tomb Raider is off, and I actually like her. But the fact that they're doing marketing like this is kind of insane. You know, people are looking at this. This is what we're getting in the game. This is what people are doing. Stop looking at this, okay? Stop enjoying Satan's lettuce. Okay, I didn't click the play for you. Stop! That's evil. Any case, look at how this is and how easy it is to just fucking make it okay. You don't even need the cleavage, honestly. That's just a nice touch that I appreciate. But you just... Why can't she just be, you know, not a fucking inbred? Is that too much to ask? Why can't my game have women that don't look like they're fucking so inbred they're one step away from being sandwiches? Why can't we have that, okay? Here also people are making fun of the fact that, yeah, this was Hogwarts Legacy and this was Fable 2026. Jesus. Okay, more stuff like this. This one's also pretty good. For those of you still slandering people talking about objective truth, production managers at Microsoft literally has rules to avoid modeling objective, beautiful women often, even those based on real beautiful women. So can we stop gaslighting and lying here? Which is interesting. I thought it was pretty obvious to anyone that has seen Microsoft games in recent years. Oh boy, that's a lot of actual evidence you provided for your information. Corby doesn't... Yeah, so this is the fact that people are currently calling out that maybe Fable is suffering from this. You know, this is one of the people who worked on a Microsoft game. This is what the actual art that they make. But this is kind of what they were forced to do. And this is from an artist. I worked on a couple of products for Xbox, and I can say that is absolutely true. This was a smaller discussion a couple of days ago when a person came out and said that Microsoft has literally rules that kind of prohibit you from making anything hot, which is hilarious. And I just want to mention how bad the situation is about making things hot. This is God of War Laufey. This abomination is her leg. They couldn't even allow the feed bros to enjoy themselves for a split second. And yes, I would also call this a foot woke, honestly. These people are like, they call the foot woke. Yeah, I'm also calling this woke, because how the hell do you do that? That's a sausage. And, hard to understand Anthropic's thinking here. here's everything we know about romance system in Fable, and this is designed by AI, kind of based on Slate. This could easily be this probably is gonna be the thumbnail. I'm not gonna lie. You can marry and have children with multiple women at the same time. Now, I want to say something about the marrying system, because obviously this is a very woke modern thing. The fact that they're kind of effectively encouraging and parading it around the world, that you're supposed to actually be in multiple relationships. You're not. It's better to be in one, by the way. That feels so much better than multiple hopping, juggling, or any of that garbage. Oh, but yeah, they're constantly showing this. I would not be surprised if you could, in this game, have a character that's white, and then find a woman that's sadly also not minority representative, and you could just magically have a black baby. I would not be even surprised in the slightest if that was a thing that ends up happening in the game at the end. I would not be in this. I believe that. Okay, listen, it is what it is. Anyway, thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Of knowledge promised by the tombs of Silver Tenebris was too much to ignore. Tech-Acquisitor Scaevola took all she could fit into her internal data stores, and already spoke of astonishing weapons technology to be turned against our enemies. She did not remain on Silver Tenebris long. She left for Mars, taking her new learning with her, babbling on about reporting to the dragon. I assume that's her term for the master of the sea. Xenorite cabals from across the Imperium make their way to Silver Tenebris, drawn by the reports of Malog's library and the knowledge still contained within. They will mine this world for its data until there is nothing left to learn. For good or ill, these secrets of the
Warhammer 40k Mechanicus 2, a direct sequel to the first game, which attempts to improve on a lot of issues from that game, while adding a lot of new content like playable Necrons. But is it any good? Well, before we get into it, it's important that you know I did receive a review code for this game, which may colour my perspective either positively or negatively, but it's important that you know that. I have also, at the time of recording this video, finished the game, completed both campaigns, which took me around 34 hours. Now, to address the two big elephants in the room, first of all, there are no timers in this game. No doom timers, no mission timers, outside of a few missions where you must hold out for a few turns. The timer system from the first game is completely gone. So if that was something you hated about Mechanicus 1, then you don't need to worry about it in this game. The second thing I think we need to acknowledge, this is not a strategy game. This is a turn-based tactics game. Despite the large overworld map and the Total War-esque unit cards, you will not be building armies and moving around on the map. You should think of the globe view more of a mission select screen than something like a Total War or Dawn of War, Dark Crusade specifically. Now, the premise for this game is rather simple. The Adeptus Mechanicus have gone to a planet that they call Hecatus 4 with the plan of turning it into a Forge world. The Necrons that already live there and call it Kivroth, of course, take offense to that, and chaos ensues. Unlike in the first game, you do not have a roster of generic tech priests that you take with you into battles. Instead, both factions have what I like to call commander units, who are unique, scripted characters that level up, change equipment, unlock abilities. but then 99% of your roster is made up of generic units. Both factions have a different system for these generic units. The tech priests are given a random assortment of units every mission based on the type of units you have available via research, which you then pick and choose who you want to bring based on the commander's deployment limit. For example, early on you'll have a deployment limit of around 5, whereas at the end of the game you'll have a deployment limit of around 20. The Necrons, on the other hand, instead of having random units, every one of your commanders has a court of scripted units that are specific to that commander, which again they pick and choose from to bring into a level based on their deployment limit. Missions in Mechanicus 2 are almost entirely linear. Once you start a mission, your chosen tech priest essentially just walks in a straight line to their objective, with events, battles, dialogue happening at certain intervals. Gone is the previous system from Mechanicus 1 where you had to choose where to walk around in levels and prioritize certain locations. Now, as I said, you just kind of sit back and wait during a mission and then react once you reach certain locations. As I mentioned at the start, the timer system is now gone, so you no longer increase time spent in levels from doing things. Instead, you have a new meter. This new meter, called the vigilance meter, is very simple. If it's at max, more enemies will spawn in a battle. If it's not at max, they won't. As you're progressing through a mission, you'll receive events with choices. Some of these choices will increase the vigilance meter, but may also offer rewards like a buff for your units or a debuff to the enemy for the next skirmish, while also having risky options that sometimes backfire and damage you. Now, as you fight through a skirmish, any casualties you take are permanent until the end of the mission. So if there's a mission with, say, 3 fights, and in the first fight you take heavy casualties, those troops will have not replenished for the next few fights in that mission. But once you've completed the mission, any losses in the case of the Adeptus Mechanicus are just immediately replenished, whereas the Necrons, funnily enough, have to spend resources to revive damaged or destroyed units, which is a little odd. The idea that the Adeptus Mechanicus armies are infinite and they don't need to pay to replace them, but the Necrons on the other hand do need to pay to replace them. To be fair, Necron units do just regenerate on their own if given a few turns to regenerate. Missions in the game are broken up into 3 types. There's assignments that you send commanders on. These assignments usually provide some sort of buff, like giving the commander more upgrade points, giving you a tech point, constructing a forge city, or awakening a tomb in the case of the Necrons. Next we have critical missions, which are your story missions. You need to do them to complete the game, but as I said, there are no timers, they'll just sit there waiting for you to get around to doing them. Then we have generic missions. I feel like this is where you will spend most of your time playing. There are quite a lot of generic missions and they randomly spawn. These can be missions to take territory on the map or attack enemy bases and defend your own bases. For the tech priests, the amount of bases you have both gates your research and affects your income. You receive income every turn based on the amount of bases or forge cities you control, whereas as the Necrons, bases don't really provide much benefit. Once you've awakened a certain amount of tombs as a Necron, you gain the option to attack and destroy a forge city belonging to the tech priests in the area around the tombs. Though I'm not sure there's any actual benefit for doing so. At one point I had destroyed every forge city in the game, but it didn't seem to make any difference as a Necron. But either way, when it comes to tech, as I mentioned, the tech priests are gated based on how many forge cities they have, really encouraging them to build these and protect them, not only for the income that they provide, but also for tech, obviously. Whereas the Necrons are simply gated by spending enough points in the previous category to gain access to the newer one. For example, having to spend a certain amount of points in the first tier to gain access to the second tier, and then the same for the third tier. I honestly found myself with overabundant tech points in my Mechanicist campaign, to the point where the moment I built a new city, I immediately unlocked every upgrade that was now newly available, whereas for the Necrons I never really felt like I had an abundance of tech points, though I did towards the end of the game research every tech option for them as well. To talk a little bit about commanders, both Necrons and tech priests have upgrade points that they receive from participating in missions and going on assignments. These points can be freely spent and refunded. So you can build a tech priest or a Necron one way, and then for another mission you can just completely refund everything you've spent and completely change their build. In the case of tech priests, they actually have quite a bit of flexibility in their use. Every tech priest has at least 2 different options for each of their equipment slots, with the exception being for their melee weapons. The Necrons have 3 upgrade lines, one that provides combat and ability buffs, the middle one that usually just provides passive bonuses, and the third one which unlocks new members of their court. Same with the tech priest, you can freely fund and refund these options. So for example, you could go into one mission with a fully upgraded Necron commander with his full court, or in the next mission you can refund all of those and go into battle with just his military and ability upgrades. It is possible to max all of these bars. I did so for at least one of my Necron commanders in the Necron campaign, and in the tech priest campaign I also maxed my most used commander. You do need to diversify your commander use a little though, because when a commander is used in battle, you can't immediately use them again for the next battle. So you'll need at least 2, maybe 3 commanders that you cycle between. That's what I did. For both of the campaigns, there were 2 commanders who basically just sat on the bench the whole time and were simply used for assignments, and then 3 I dedicatedly used. When it comes to battle, Tech Priest and Necron commanders both use 2 different systems. The Tech Priests use the cognition system from the first game, where their units produce cognition and then their commanders can spend them on abilities and buffs. These Tech Priests also have abilities that their units can spend to buff themselves using cognition. For example, my most used Tech Priest was Kipra, because I really liked her ability to have her units connect to her, which could further be buffed so that when the unit connected, it healed it. There aren't that many sources of healing in this game, so being able to dedicatedly heal my soldiers at the cost of cognition felt pretty great. For the Necrons, on the other hand, they have a system called Domination. Unfortunately, it's a lot less of an active system than Cognition. As they attack and kill enemies, Necrons gain Domination, and as Domination increases, they gain access to passive, mainly abilities, or their current abilities gain new options. For example, an attack might do more damage at higher levels of Domination, or have an extra effect. Unfortunately, as I said, I didn't really think much about Domination because it just went up as you fought. Like, there wasn't much thought put into managing my Domination like with Cognition. Towards the end of the game, though, you do start to unlock abilities that can spend Domination, much like Cognition. And those were the times where I thought about Domination the most, as I was suddenly thinking about spending it actively and having to take into account that my units would become worse, essentially, if I spent my Domination. To put it simply, Tech Priests are a lot more flexible than their Necron counterparts and have more options available on how to build them, whereas with the Necrons, what you see is what you get. Your melee-focused Necron is never really going to be able to turn into a ranged-focused one. With a bit of an exception, Necrons do have access to command protocols. These provide both active and passive benefit, and if you pick ones that have the same symbol or hieroglyph, then they will combine and create a new passive or active ability. This lets you diversify your Necrons a little bit, and adds options similar to how your units can spend cognition as a tech priest, as the abilities command protocols give you are used by your units. Unlike the tech priest though, Necrons don't spend domination to use command protocols. Instead, all command protocols have a cooldown of 5 turns, so you use one, wait 5 turns, and then use it again, with no cost to domination, just time. On the note of the timeline, this game uses a slightly different system to its predecessor. When it's your turn, you can pick any of your units to act on that turn, but your enemies have their turns in a set frequency. You can manipulate this in a way by eliminating the enemies that are going to have their turn next. Once you do so, a new enemy doesn't fill their slot, instead that slot is removed. As I mentioned, you can manipulate this to make it so you have turns back to back essentially, by eliminating all the enemies that are going to act between your turns. Now, there's something I've been kind of skirting around, and that's the idea of difficulty. My main complaint with the first game, Mechanicus 1, was that it was far too easy. Even on the highest difficulties, even using melee-only runs and Iron Man and permadeath, the game was very easy. And, unfortunately, I feel similar here about Mechanicus 2. One of the problems Mechanicus 2 has is an overabundance of resources. For example, in the Tech Priest campaign, I had so many resources and such a high income, I couldn't spend them fast enough, essentially. As the Tech Priest, you have to spend requisition points to bring units with you into battle, but the rate at which I gained requisition points passively from my forged cities was so high that I could basically bring anyone I wanted to into any battle. Towards the end of the game, I had around 5,000 requisition points and was gaining hundreds every turn, with no avenue to spend them. And this, of course, kills the difficulty a bit, because if you can just bring the best units with you every time into a mission, then there's not much the enemy can really do to threaten you. Necrons have a similar issue, but it's not really based around resources, because you don't spend resources to bring your units into battle as Necron. You gain access to units based on the level of the commander and how many points you've invested into their court. This creates a system where early game your commanders aren't that good because they don't have access to many units, and so you're having to make do with the weak and generic units like the default Necron warrior, whereas once they start to level up and gain those points, you'll very quickly be bringing the best into battles like Death Marks or the Castellan robot. The Necrons, funnily enough, don't have an abundance of resources, and they have more avenues to spend them on. Though they don't spend them to bring units into battle, they can spend them to upgrade units in their courts, giving them access to buffs and new abilities. And of course they have to spend them to resupply damaged or destroyed units, as I said. But this isn't really enough to make you feel like you're pressured as the Necrons. I never encountered a situation where I couldn't afford to replenish a unit and had to do without, even though you have much less resources as a Necron. To add on to that, the combat itself is fairly easy. I played the first campaign as the Adeptus Mechanicus on the hard difficulty, that being tactical, and the second campaign as the Necrons on normal, simply because I wanted to finish it faster. And there were very few occasions where I actually felt challenged, or situations where I lost. One of the main issues with this is that every level is essentially protect the king level for you. If your commander dies in any mission, you fail the mission, which incentivizes you to kind of keep them back and let the generic grunts do most of the fighting. As such, it's quite hard to lose unless you've lost literally every single unit. By comparison, this makes boss fights very easy. I won nearly every boss fight within 1 or 2 turns simply by focusing all my attention on the boss to eliminate them, which wins the fight. And because the AI doesn't prioritize protecting their bosses like you do, they have no problem really just charging them forward and getting them killed. The boss fights were arguably the easiest fights in the game and the fastest because I didn't have to kill all enemies like in most levels. Bosses themselves are also pretty weak. Despite the fact they can act multiple times in the timeline, I never really found their abilities being threatening enough or damaging enough to do big damage to my armies before they were killed. Since they act multiple times, it also makes damaging effects fairly dangerous for them, like burning or irradiation, because they'll essentially be killing themselves by acting. The boss I ironically had the most trouble with was in the Adeptus Mechanicus campaign because I came up against a boss who was immune to radiation, and suddenly my tactics of just spamming radiation everywhere to kill everything no longer work. As the Necrons, I think you have an even easier time dealing with bosses because you have so many units that just deal massive amounts of damage in a single hit, which makes eliminating bosses even easier than the Adeptus Mechanicus. But to be fair, I haven't played the game on its highest difficulty, that being Grimdark, and there's currently no Iron Man mode in the game, so it could just be that I need to play on a higher difficulty, and with some restrictions. Although, it's not really possible to lose the game, I think, as if you fail a generic skirmish, it essentially means nothing. It just means the Tech Priest or Necron Lord will be disabled for a few turns. And if you fail a story or critical mission, the game will just ask you to restart the skirmish or the whole mission from the beginning. I suppose you could soft lock yourself if you entered a mission with a mediocre setup, I suppose, and were unable, no matter how many tries it took, to defeat a mission. And with the critical story missions, there's no way to back out other than loading a save. But still, I was pretty disappointed that I didn't find any real difficulty from the game, which was for me the thing I really wanted the game to address the most when compared to the first game. As in the first game, it's very easy to just become so overpowered the enemy can't threaten you in any way, and unfortunately I feel this way about the second game as well. But this isn't me saying the game isn't good. I just think if you're looking for a challenge, this game is unlikely to really scratch the itch the same way the first one didn't really either. But with that said, of course, I still had a lot of fun, but then I really enjoy tactics games, whether they're easy or hard. They just scratch my brain, as it were. But to move on and talk about the game's central plot and story, no spoilers obviously, it's kind of a mixed bag. There are some things I think are done better than in the first game, but also some things I think are done worse. One of the things about the first game that I liked quite a lot was the amount of banter and dialogue with your other tech priests and advisors as Faustinius, but because missions are no longer given directly by your companions or cohorts, there's much less involvement with them in the story. They do of course still chime in every now and again, but most of the talking will be between Faustinius and his servitor skull during missions, and then between Faustinius and the tech priest leaders that rule the planet between missions. In the case of the Necrons, it's even worse. There's never actually any dialogue between your Necron leader or anyone and your commanders. They never actually have any involvement in the story or plot. They're kind of just there, which makes it hard to get attached to these characters, who I don't even remember their names. I just remember them as the guy who summons a bunch of scarabs, the guy who has lots of ranged units, and the guy with the big scythe. I don't think their names are ever actually said in the game at any point, which is a departure from the first game where it felt like you had quite an intimate host of advisors and leaders with a lot of bantering and discussion between them. Now with that said, I do think the story is better than Mechanicus 1. Mechanicus 1's story was essentially just a bunch of people talking and then the mission happened, and then they talked during the mission and then the mission was over, with no real story outside of, you know, there are Necrons on this planet, we're gonna kill them. Mechanicus 2 does a much better job of having a consistent story and narrative over the course of the campaign. This is made even better by having the Necron campaign, as both the Tech Priest and Necron campaigns complement each other and fill in the gaps for each other. There are certain events you never see in the Necron campaign that happen in the Tech Priest campaign and vice versa. This kind of backfires a little bit though, as the Tech Priest campaign has a lot more climactic events than the Necron campaign, but the Necron campaign can't have those events because they don't happen from the perspective of the Necrons. You may balk at the idea, but I find getting attached to your units is fairly important in these XCOM style and tactics games. Unfortunately, because the majority of units are generic, it doesn't really mean anything when one dies. Oh no, I just lost my 700th Skin Flayer, or oh no, Skitari 1001 just died. Since you can't lose your actual named characters or you lose the level, and the losses of generic units essentially means nothing, it's hard to really get attached to anything, which I suppose in a way is kind of good. This game does have a good feeling of being in a war and just essentially sending thousands into the meat grinder to die for both sides, which lets you use every unit to its full potential, both in combat and in sacrificial lands to protect other units. Now, with all that said, let's talk a little bit about bugs, which I can safely say was almost perfect. In fact, I only noted 4 bugs over the course of my 2 campaigns. Those bugs were a case where the dialogue didn't match up with the audio in the Necron campaign. At one point an enemy got stuck and I couldn't reach them and they couldn't reach me. Luckily I was able to kill them with an AoE attack, a point where the game hung on one of the enemy's turns. That sort of bug seems to happen all the time in these sort of tactics games, but this only happened once across both campaigns and forced me to restart the skirmish. Finally, one of the endings is bugged. When you reach the end of the game and achieve that ending, instead of playing the ending sequence, the game essentially just sits. And performance-wise, the game was pretty flawless. I didn't notice any real issues, even on the highest and at times the lowest graphical settings as I switch between just to test them. To be fair, I do meet or exceed the recommended requirements for this game, so I can't comment on playing this game on a computer that doesn't meet the recommended / minimum requirements. I can at least say I didn't experience anything that would make the game not function at or above the recommended requirements. At least for me, performance will always be one of those things where it will vary by user, unfortunately. Now you're probably asking, what about the Votan? Well, I've kind of left them as an afterthought for this review, because they're pretty much an afterthought in the game. They only show up for a few scripted story missions and do not appear in the generic missions, and they only have 3 units. They have no real involvement in the game's plot or story. They're kind of just there. Their main claim to fame in the plot is being in the place at the time. And unfortunately they don't play, at least I don't consider them as playing a major role in the plot. And since you only encounter them rarely, it's easy to forget they're even in the game, which is honestly rather disappointing. It would have been nice if they were really utilised to take part in some of the generic missions, turning them into three-way battles, which they do a bit in the scripted missions that they appear in, but I just feel like their involvement in the game is so minimal that it makes them completely forgettable. If you were hoping you would unlock or acquire any Votan units over the course of the game, unfortunately that simply never happens. As I said, they're kind of just there. To finish up, do I recommend this game? Yes. Did I enjoy this game? Yes. Did the lack of difficulty ruin the game? No, I don't think so. I think the game was fairly enjoyable even with the lacking difficulty. Whether difficulty is something very important to you will of course vary from user to user. So if you're looking to really be challenged by a tactics game, I unfortunately don't think this game meets that criteria. When it comes to length, as I said, it took me 34 hours to finish both campaigns. I would personally knock that down to maybe 30 hours because I did do quite a lot of side missions I didn't need to do just because I wanted to grind up or to fully upgrade and get all the achievements. On achievements, 2 of them were bugged and I wasn't able to get. One of them was actually an ending achievement. One of the endings is currently bugged in this pre-release version. I don't know if it'll still be bugged in the release version, and so I wasn't able to get the ending and therefore the achievement related to it. But that's the sort of thing that should be fixed fairly quickly. After all, I doubt most people are going to play through both campaigns before this bug gets fixed. The other achievement that was bugged was to reach 10 cognition points with Scavola, which I did repeatedly, but it never seemed to trigger. The game should be, or will be, priced at $40, €40 or £35, and will of course be released on PC, Xbox Series X, and PS5. For now though, I think this is everything. I do hope you enjoyed this video and found it helpful for you in informing your purchasing decisions. If you have any questions about Mechanicus 2, don't hesitate to ask. I'll do my best to answer any queries. And now I'll thank you for watching, and see you next time.
So when a short guy stands up for himself, that's a syndrome now? Think about it. When a tall guy acts confident, he's a leader. But when a short guy does the same thing, suddenly it's short man syndrome. Everybody tells short guys, just be confident, bro. But the second we actually are, society mocks us and labels us as toxic, insecure, aggressive. So which is it? The Napoleon complex isn't a diagnosis. It's a weapon. And today I'm going to explain how it's used to gaslight short men into silence. And the real reason why this label even exists in the first place. Now, as a 162 centimeter, 5'3.5" manlet, I've had my fair share of experiences like these. Being belittled, dismissed or brushed aside, mocked, humiliated, or being called aggressive or insecure for standing up for myself, both online and in real life. I remember back in my senior year of high school, I had gone to a new school, and I was trying to get social and meet people, and one of the things I tried to do was join in this landscaping cleanup day for the school grounds. And at that point in my life, I genuinely was overcompensating. I was so insecure. And I did manage to get very strong, and I felt like I was very capable, just as capable as any tall guy, and I wanted to prove to everyone that I was. Now, somebody's dad was like the supervisor of the area that I was working in, and he wanted somebody to pick up and haul this bucket full of mulch or something over to another part of the grounds. And he was standing right next to me, and I said, hey, I can do it. I'll do it for you. And he just pretended I didn't say anything. So I said it again. Hey, excuse me, I can do that for you. No response. Completely ignored. Cold shoulder. Then this 6'3" tall rich kid, looked like a typical Chad. He comes by and the supervisor's like,
hey, so-and-so, what's your name? How you doing?
Except he said his real name.
You're big and strong. Can you carry this bucket over there for me?
And the guy says,
yeah, sure, of course.
And I'm just sitting there like... Now, at that time in my life, I had developed a drinking problem to try and cope with these severe insecurities. And that night, I went home feeling so completely inferior and inadequate. I drank until I almost passed out because I couldn't stop thinking about the reason why he asked that other guy and ignored me is because he wanted a real man to do the job. And believe it or not, I had another bad experience at that school just a few weeks before. Before moving to this new school, I decided to shadow another student there, which means they kind of just give you a tour of the school and you follow them around for the day. So this preppy, popular kid, he's about 5 or 6 inches taller than me, he walks with me into this classroom to talk to the basketball coach. And the guy I went in there with said something, and he's like,
oh yeah, lovely.
He's all friendly and happy and nice. And I tried to be polite and nice to this guy, and he just looked down at me with disgust. I tried to greet him, he goes, And every time I saw that guy around school, every time I saw him interacting with anybody in a positive way, they were always tall. You might think, oh, this is all in your head. But think about it. He's a basketball coach. Basketball glorifies height. And this guy's tall. Of course, he probably has a superiority complex, and he sees anyone who's not tall as inferior. And I totally understand why, because you look down at them your whole life. Like,
what are you capable of, Pipsqueak?
And at my previous school, I actually bore witness to a situation where somebody was mocked for height insecurity. There was this big, tall, strong football player kid that all the girls obsessed over, and he didn't really have any problems with me, but I overheard him having a conversation with somebody about this other kid, and they were both talking about how short he was and how much of an inferiority complex he had and how he had short man syndrome. And that was the reason why, apparently, this kid would always square up to this guy and says, come on, let's go, let's fight. Like, come on, I can take you. And you know what this jock guy said?
He said, hell no, I'm not gonna fight you. I would beat your ass. I'm not trying to hurt anyone. That guy's just trying to overcompensate for his height and prove himself by challenging the biggest guy in the school.
And even though hearing that hurt my feelings and made me feel self-conscious about my height, it's situations like that where they actually vindicate the idea of a Napoleon complex. Because even though the Napoleon complex and short man syndrome is very often used as a way to invalidate and dismiss the very real problems that short guys face, it is obviously a real thing. It's just that it's overprescribed in every situation. And I've experienced this false accusation myself, but not in school. It was in a much more serious situation that involved my livelihood. Back in 2019, I had an office job, and I was just trying to go above and beyond to show that me as a college graduate am capable of more than they might think. And, you know, perhaps deep down, that did come from a sense of insecurity. But what it really came from was an extreme drive and ambition. But people didn't see it that way, even though I had gotten over my height insecurities all the way back in 2015 and had actually learned to embrace my height, which I talked about in a different video called Why I Like Being Short. I'll link it in the description. But when I got my first performance review, my confidence wasn't celebrated. It was villainized and labeled as Napoleon complex. Now, I told the full story of this disastrous job experience and toxic work environment in one of my recent videos, where I discuss heightism in the workplace. And I'll link that in the description also, as well as at the end. But it's not just in real life that we experience this gaslighting, prejudice, and dismissal. Having just spent 6 months building up the Chadwick Maxim TikTok, I have experienced an endless stream of harassment, invalidation, dismissal, and gaslighting in comments on my videos on that page. Now, I'll be showing some of them here on screen. Now, if you're a short guy like me who's experienced the significant disadvantages that come along with being a male who's supposed to be big and strong and a provider and a protector and a leader and tower over everyone, the bullying, the mistreatment, and discrimination that comes along with being smaller than everyone else and being seen as an easy target, then you'll understand how insulting it is to read comments like these, blaming all your problems on your personality, assuming that the reason you're having problems is because you're just not confident. And the majority of the time, these criticisms are coming from tall men and women, people who have never even come close to experiencing this kind of treatment in their lives. And the worst part is that along with the mistreatment, almost every short man in existence has to go through an intense, painful period of body shaming and feelings of inferiority, growing up with media that praises size and height and portrays all the people in charge as tall and strong to help them stand out from the plebs below them, portraying their bumbling sidekick as this tiny little manlet, showing all the girls looking up to and fawning over the big, tall, strong leader of the group. Growing up as a teenager, hearing girls make comments about guys' height, make fun of guys who are short, brutally reject short guys who ask them out. Don't you think it's enough that short guys already have to experience all that in their lives? What conclusion do you think they're going to come to? Even without any of the bullying or mistreatment or discrimination, they either will already be extremely depressed, or they'll try and be in denial about it, and that's just another way of coping with the insecurity. Or, if they're lucky, they'll take my route, where they become so increasingly insecure, where they can no longer bear the burden of living. Some primal self-preservation gene will snap in their brain, and they'll go from wanting to try and be a big, strong, macho alpha male to embracing their position as beta at the bottom of the hierarchy and becoming a submissive masochist. And if you knew me in real life, you'd know I'm a salesman. I'm very charismatic. Everywhere I go, people love me. But from my personal experience, that still has not changed the fully real fact that height discrimination and height bias don't just affect dating, they affect every aspect of life. If that doesn't prove these commenters wrong, then I don't know what will. Now, I've already explained how society mocks and pathologizes the confidence of short men, labeling us as toxic or insecure. But when a tall guy acts the same way, they say he's a great leader. This guy right here explains it better than I ever could.
How can you follow Joe Rogan? He's 5'6". What leader? If I was standing in front of Joe Rogan, I would think he disappeared. I would be like, where's my friend Joe Rogan? And someone would be like, way down there. I'd be like, where? No, like men are right here. Like, where's Joe Rogan? He speaks lies and he's short. Joe Rogan is not a leader. Like, if he was a king on a horse, if they hadn't invented booster seats, like, how would the soldiers have seen him?
So knowing that, of course society would label the confidence of tall men as leadership qualities and the confidence of short guys as insecurity and toxicity. Because we have a prehistoric, instinctual rejection and revulsion towards men who don't fit the masculine, dominant role that males are traditionally meant to fulfill. Why would a tribe listen to or choose someone as a leader who they have no reason to respect or fear? Someone they look down on like a child. And somewhere deep in our tribal instincts, short men know this too. And it's a hard thing to accept. So of course many of us will try to deny it and run from the truth. Of course we'll feel inadequate compared to someone who is obviously clearly superior to us. So there's no need to throw salt on the wound and kick us when we're already down by bullying us, exploiting us, and excluding us from opportunities. But we'll finish discussing the leadership issue in a future video. But this issue isn't just personal, it's systemic. But here's the deeper question. Why does this stereotype keep getting pushed? And who benefits from it? Why is a short man's confidence threatening enough that society has to invent a syndrome to shame it? And what does that reveal about tall privilege and power dynamics that we don't like to admit? And by the way, if you've ever been called out for a Napoleon complex or short man syndrome or told to just be confident, I'd like to hear your story in the comments. And if any of this resonates with you, hit the like button. It helps push this conversation out to more people who need to hear it. So where did this term, Napoleon complex, come from? Well, I don't think it came from Abraham Lincoln. Way back in the 1800s, when Napoleon was really pissing off the Brits after his conquest of Europe and threatening their empire, they wanted to do everything they could to portray this guy as badly as possible to get everyone to join their army. So back then, they had the first newspapers and magazines, and they put all throughout there making fun of what else? His height. And if that's not further evidence of the historic, civilization-spanning phenomenon of height being a negative association and humiliating, submissive characteristic, they threw all short men under the bus for the rest of history by renaming what was an inferiority complex after this guy as a sort of social proof for the existence of this mindset. Basically, because of this propaganda, they sentenced all future generations of short men to lifetimes of increased scrutiny, judgment, prejudice, assumptions, and a way to invalidate the accomplishments of any short guy who managed to defy the odds and do something impressive with his life as being the result of some laughable syndrome. This mindset of height bias and prejudice propagates itself through media and cultural reinforcement. Here's an example of the consequences of that, and we call him the bagel guy. Play the clip.
Why is it okay for women to say, oh, you're 5 feet on a dating site? You should be dead? That's okay? You think I'm making that shit up? Everywhere I go, I can see you fucking smirk with the biting lip. Shut your mouth. You're not God or my father or my boss. You shut up too. Shut the fuck up. Go ahead and attack me.
Oh my god. I just wanted bagels. Absolutely.
Oh, and a guy 3 times my size. Absolutely. That's okay? No, you women need to stop being so fucked up.
Now, if you take a look at the comment section of video like this, and you'll see the vast majority of people are piling on, insulting him, and making him into a joke, instead of asking what they should ask, and that's that, why did he snap? What did he go through in life that made him so sensitive and so on edge? How many forms of discrimination and prejudice, mistreatment, bullying, domination, and intimidation occurred in his life for him to reach the point of exploding? And on top of it, how many instances occurred that everyone around him just laughed at and turned into a joke? or dismissed and invalidated, or even worse, blame it on him. Someone gets bullied, harassed, and exploited.
Well, as long as it's a short guy, that makes it funny. We don't care how they feel, because they're men. They should be tough and just take it. Take the abuse. They're worthless anyway, they don't matter.
That clearly was just the last straw for him. If you compare how society treats short men to how it treats other marginalized groups, there's a serious elephant in the room. An elephant that seems to only be visible to the people who are suffering the consequences of it. When it comes to things like homophobia, transphobia, racism, sexism, even religious or cultural bias, there has been an unprecedented swing of the pendulum from one extreme all the way to the other. Every last piece of subtle whitewashing or cultural appropriation, microaggressions, media portrayals, they've all been scrutinized and dissected to the absolute max. Society's responded with its own overcompensation of sympathy, reparations, policy changes, and pressuring of the media to become sensitive to all of their issues. But when I bring up the idea of just having a law against discrimination based on height, I get comments like these. So why does every other marginalized group get handled with kid gloves to the point where any little mistake that somebody makes can ruin their life, but height prejudice is invalidated and dismissed to the point where they're not even willing to consider letting us propose a law against height-based prejudice impacting our opportunities and pay in the workplace? Something that these other marginalized groups got decades ago. And if you grew up watching Disney or any of that crap, you would know that there are more offensive portrayals of short men in the media than any other marginalized group. Go back and check. Portrayals that were enough to sow the seeds of self-hatred, internalized body shaming, and a life-ruining inferiority complex. On top of that, all the injustice we face, it isn't just brushed aside. It's made into the butt of a joke. Personally, I don't care about people making jokes about it and all that stuff. I believe in free speech. But it's not right for everything else to be policed to the max, while we have this one marginalized group of people that is treated the absolute opposite way, all for the sadistic pleasure and entertainment of the elite, and everyone else who's just there to watch and mock, just like the audience in the Colosseum. Now, learning something like that, you might go crazy if you don't become a masochist like me. And all of this highlights the existence of tall privilege and how it's related to an elite agenda. Tall people are respected more, promoted more, seen as more credible, more capable. As much as people try to pretend like we're all equal and say that,
oh, I'm tall, I've got my problems, you've got your problems, everybody's the same.
It's clear and obvious to anyone with any critical thinking skill that there are no downsides to being superior in size and stature, except for having to consume more calories and take longer to grow and have it cost more to buy clothes and need larger this, larger that. All that says to me was that size and stature require wealth, prosperity, and status to reach their full potential, to provide them the resources in abundance that they need. But as elites know, the privileges provided by such stature have been enough to compound and magnify the advantages that they have over the 99%, more and more in each generation. These are the reasons why a progressively widening wealth gap has developed between tall people and short people. Now, there will always be statistical outliers and anomalies, people like Jeff Bezos or this or that defy the odds, but the numbers don't lie. The upper class is vastly taller than the lower class for obvious reasons that I've gone into in other videos. I'll link them in the description. They even dominate politics. And these elites run these corporations that control our food supply and market these unnatural products and processed foods as cheap because they're profiting by making it cheaper for people to exist in an unnatural state and using that power to experiment on those they control. I believe they have an agenda to monopolize height, consolidate it into their own subspecies of elite superhumans, while they stunt the growth of all their underlings to make damn certain everybody can tell at one glance who rules, until standing before an elite makes you feel nothing but submission and fear to have the financial and socio-political power they've always had, physically.
I'm Bronte and I am a single mum of 4 children. I've been divorced. Dating as a single mum of 4 is not easy because society likes to tell you that you're unwanted. The thought of dating just makes me sick. I know what somebody's like. My husband's out there somewhere. It's the whole single mums are desperate. I'm not freaking desperate, I don't need you. This is a PSA for anyone that's single that is not on a dating app. Where are you and what are you doing? So I used to think that I wanted someone that was obsessed with me until I dated someone that was obsessed with me. I think I just met the love of my life and we're never going to be together. I somehow ended up accidentally I had a full-on mental breakdown yesterday because I felt like everything in my life is falling apart. The backlash that you get as a single person when you say that you want a relationship is wild. Not everybody's going to think I'm cute and funny. And that's fine.
Remember, guys, she's a single mother of 4 kids.
I just had the realization that my husband is out there somewhere praying for me right now. It's a common misconception that single mums have no options. We do. At this point in my life, I do not want to settle. Problem is, these beautiful men that I know I could message, I know in my core, in my soul, that they're not the one. I've got to say that if you had told me 2 years ago that I would be divorced, single mum of 4, I want to say that I'd be surprised. Can I not be happy on my own being a single mum while still wanting and waiting for a relationship that's going to fulfill my childhood and my heart's desire?
No, ma'am, if that's your heart's desire and you wanted that from childhood, then you won't be happy until you find a husband.
I disgust myself. I'm such a romantic. And I've got literally no hopes for being with somebody or meeting somebody right now. I'm single for a good solid who knows how long. Dating as a single mum? Half the people find out you've got kids because they don't take the time to actually swipe across and see that you have kids in your profile. So when you mention kids, they just ghost you. The other half of people don't seem to care at all about kids. But you're trying to lock in a date going like, see them. And maybe like 2 out of 20 people you'll meet in person. 1 might be someone that you want to see again.
Ma'am, but you just said you have so many options. Even though you're a single mother of 4 children. Not 1, not 2, 4, ma'am. Any guy that wants to seriously date you is a very big simp. You understand, ma'am, what a big responsibility for a man is to take care of another man's child, let alone 4 children. Only a simp would do that, ma'am. I don't care how you look. By the way, guys, stay till the end because there are a few videos at the end that I want you to see. And as always, if you enjoy my videos, consider subscribing.
A man once told me, what a man provides for you in the start of your relationship, that's his maximum.
That means that that man is very stupid, ma'am.
Nobody spirals harder than like a late 20s, early 30-year-old girl who knows this isn't it, but yet has no clue what it even is. I hate to be the one to tell you this, but chances are you need to hear it. The more you heal, the less you chase, and the more you will attract.
Okay, ma'am, so if you're still single, does that mean that you can't attract the man that you actually want because you have unrealistic expectations and standards? Let me know, ma'am.
The best thing that could happen to young and women is a breakup. You're about to level.
Man, just because you have a job doesn't mean that you're a strong, independent woman.
Level up 100, learn from your mistakes, and not have to bring along and drag a piece of shit. One could never be involved.
as I live is he's too nice. That's just never gonna happen. Oh my god, he's just too nice. Not gonna he can't be nice enough. Firstly, he could never be too nice.
Okay guys, so here is another prime example of exactly what I was telling you. They never want the nice guys when they're in their prime, in their 20s. Only when they get older and they get tired of chats just pumping and dumping them, only then they want the nice guy.
Honestly, I get why some guys prefer having hoes over a girlfriend. Like, having a girlfriend costs significantly more than having, like, 5 people that you're dating at that moment. Fucking with the hoes is a lot cheaper than having a full-time girlfriend. So, you know.
Depends on the woman, man. Not all women are gold diggers.
So this girl went to order pizza. She said chivalry is dead. And as you can see, it's a whole bunch of men occupying the pizza. But the comment section did not disappoint. Only when it's convenient for you, right? But equality is alive.
Yep.
Chivalry ain't dead. I'll get up for my mom, sister, and girlfriend. Would die for those women, not a stranger.
You have to remember that chivalry is oppressive. Chivalry is part of the patriarchy. You're all strong and independent women. You don't need a man.
The bear didn't bring you a chair. Period, kings. You're a strong, independent woman. You'll figure it out.
True.
Excuse me, would you like to... I have a boyfriend.
For women, we naturally have that instinct to settle down regardless of how you say or feel, you know? And I think that in our minds, we always think that we can, you know, we can tame them and that we can get them to date. Yeah, we can change them and we can get them to date us. So that always like happens with me is you keep dragging it out. I drag it out for an entire year because I was hoping that all the amounts of times that we would spend together and have intimate moments that he would eventually be like, you know what, like maybe I should date this girl. No.
See, ma'am, so how can you all say that you have good instincts when you all date the bad boys in the hope that you will change him? You saw all the red flags in the world. He showed you everything. You know how he treats women. But yet, you think you're so special. You have such a good intuition that you will be the one to change him. That's why they all want the nice guy only in their 30s. When they saw they can't change the bad boy.
Oh, I'm telling you, if a guy goes in, like, if his mind goes into it, that he's casually hooking up with you, his mind will never change.
And honestly, the problem is that too many of you act like you hate men, and it's like, cheat on your boyfriend, whatever, in comment sections, hating on men, whatever, and then it's like, when a real bitch comes on television, and maybe she's playing in the man's face slightly, now she's a problem for you, now you're acting like she, like, killed his puppy or something. Like, I open Love Island comment section, and it's like, but why would not be like sincere? Like, literally, why is she treating him like that? Like, I feel so bad for him. Like, sincere, you deserve better. I read a comment that was like,
it's because those guys on Love Island or whatever show that is, ma'am, those guys are attractive. And when women see attractive guys, they don't act the same as with normal guys, as with the average guy. When the guy is attractive, he can do or say whatever, and she will still fall in love with him.
Here's a stat. Are you ready? If you are wanting a gentleman who is 6 feet tall or above, and who makes over $150,000 or above, guess what percent of the dating pool you are dealing with?
1% or less than 1%.
1%. You've reduced all the men down to 1% left.
And that doesn't account for race, education, or whatever other standards that woman has, guys.
If you are looking for that. And let me tell you, that guy, that 1%, he has a lot of options. And
so why would he choose you?
So every woman thinks she's getting this guy. Wait, and that 1%, oh, this is the most important part. That does not include kindness. That does not include intelligence. That does not include emotional availability. That does not include physical attractiveness. It includes nothing that is important in actually making a relationship last. It doesn't include similar values. You've shrunk your dating pool down to 1%.
If you're a guy who doesn't have a girlfriend in the house after 7 p.m., you kind of go a bit insane.
Dude.
What do you do?
That's not true. There are lots and lots of men I know because I see them in my comments saying they're just fine being peaceful, being alone, not having somebody nag them.
I could tell you I have a friend who is single and lives on his own now, and I just get like random headstand pictures. I'm like, are you doing headstands? Like, what are you doing? You're stretching? Like, it's 8:30. What are you stretching for? You're getting, like, how hard do you go to bed? Like, it's time for sleep.
Women are going to be chasing, if they genuinely believe I'm this attractive, they're going to be chasing after a caliber of man that might give them but isn't going to give them a relationship, marriage, a ring, because there's a difference that occurs when it comes to dating. Men will sleep with a woman that he would never be in a relationship with. He's just using her for he'll date down, essentially, sleep.
Yeah, I've done that. I'm not proud of it, but I've done that before, yeah.
Down. And so, because this is a phenomenon, you can have a woman who's a 5, a 6, or a 7. She can go like a guy who's more attractive than her. A woman, you just gotta be pleasant and offer sex. That's all it takes for you as women. Not all like hyper attractive men are gonna bite on that, but like on Tinder, on dating apps, you see the attention go to the top 10% of men on the dating apps. Meanwhile, like the rest are fighting over scraps and pretty much just like completely zeroed out. And so if women are not realistic about their own attractiveness, they're going to reject men who are actually their league, their equivalent, and they're going to be sleeping with, pursuing, attempting to date really attractive men.
Women. And then they will make TikTok videos saying that all men are trash. No, ma'am, just because you slept with a few assholes who don't care about you, that doesn't mean that all men are the same. It just means that you're delusional, ma'am.
Women are the ones that create misogynistic men. I feel like a lot of women forget that their sons turn into somebody's husband and somebody's father. I've seen how a mother can mold her son into this misogynistic man without even knowing what she's doing. It's not that you can't love your son with all. I mean, I love my son to death. But one thing he's not gonna do is disrespect a woman. That's one.
Okay, so from the start, ma'am, I can see that you're a feminist. What about if that woman is not good for him? What about if that woman does something to him? He should never disrespect a woman just because it's a woman, right? You're some kind of mythical creatures that nobody should touch or say anything bad about because you're special. Yeah, we're just going to skip this video because it's clear she's very, very stupid. And I'm sad for her son. Because he will grow up to be a simp. And all the women in his life will disrespect him, and it will all be thanks to his great feminist mother.
Looking it down, if you were dating a guy and you were seeing him for 5 weeks, you said you weren't exclusive, but he told you that no, he's not like that. He doesn't date any multiple girls, that you are the only one, and that he really liked you, and that you were seeing him all the time.
Put a finger down if you can see the red flags and you believe everything the guy says. Okay.
And then all of a sudden you just had a gut feeling that there was another girl around, and on a random Sunday he takes you to the golfing range in Albert Park, and you just have a feeling.
It's clear that guy had the right mind. Yeah.
Because you checked his text and he's on Do Not Disturb, and then following that you just know because your toothbrush is in the bin when you get to his, and then on Monday you just wake up with this weird feel. Anyways, you break up with him Tuesday morning because you're just like, there's something wrong, my gut doesn't lie to me. And then Tuesday night I go to the golfing range with my friend and I see him there on a date with a girl.
I'm 35 years old. I don't own my own property. I have absolutely no savings. I'm in a fair bit of debt. I do spend a lot, not gonna lie, because we like nice things, don't we? Because
such a catch. What man wouldn't want a woman like this?
Life is, in general, pretty shit. Especially here in the UK. It's June, and look what it's doing outside. It's raining. I am sick of this cycle. I have frozen all my credit cards. I am not going to spend another penny for the next 17 days.
We can all see that you can't control your spending, like the 3 guitars behind you. Why do you need all 3? Why? Guys, if you actually want to date a woman like this and you see no red flags, then you are the problem, my guy. Stop being a simp.
A lot of the guys I talk to think women like bad boys. Have you ever dated a bad boy?
I would say probably yes.
Yeah? Is it how recent?
Ooh, probably 4 or 5 years ago.
Okay, so even at her age, she didn't learn anything. Okay.
How did it go?
Horribly.
Horribly.
Yeah.
Would you do it again?
No.
No?
10 out of 10 do not recommend.
Okay.
Okay, so at her age, now all of a sudden she realizes that the bad boys aren't it. And what do you think she's going to do now, guys? She's going to look for the nice guy. But of course, she will never be happy with the nice guy because she will still be thinking about the bad boy. And at some point, she will leave the nice guy or divorce him.
Have you ever liked the guy more because he ignored you?
Yeah,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Is that something you still look for in the future?
Definitely not.
Are these like kind of lessons learned, would you say?
I would say so, yes. Painful ones, but lessons learned.
Think about your best relationship.
Guys, she couldn't have learned this at 25. No. She had to be 45 to understand this, guys. Do you understand how stupid this is? I can bet she dated over 10 guys, over 20 guys in her 20s who were the bad boys, who were assholes. How many guys like that do you need before you learn your lesson? We're just going to skip this video because it's very stupid.
How old are you?
How old do you think I am?
28?
No.
30-something.
36.
Have you ever been proposed to before?
Yes. I said no.
You told him no.
Yes.
How long were you with him at the time?
A year.
Why didn't you choose to commit to him at that level?
Because she has unrealistic standards, and probably that guy didn't make enough money for her, or didn't have enough ambition for her.
Because he was a cheater.
How'd you find out?
A friend of a friend told me. They kissed on New Year's Eve. I was young. I was like 19.
That was the only time a man has ever proposed to you.
No.
What happened the second time?
I said no because I don't settle. Yeah.
Why didn't you give the second guy a
Okay, guys, so I was wrong the first time, but I was right the second time. Okay.
shot at marriage?
I do get it wrong sometimes, guys. I'm not perfect.
I wasn't ready.
And how old were you at the time?
26.
That was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Has any other man proposed to you since then?
No.
Do you think that those were your last two shots at love?
No.
What man do you think would propose to you now at this stage in life?
A simp. Just from how she's dressed, from how she talks, only a simp would do that.
I don't know. I'm single, so we'll see what happens.
Do you enjoy being single?
I do.
What do you like about it?
I don't have anyone to answer to. I'm busy, career woman.
You like the...
Exactly what I told you guys. She's busy, she's a career woman, she doesn't want to answer to anybody, she can do whatever she wants, she's a strong, independent woman. So why would a guy want to marry you? Only a simp would do that. Stop being simps.
There's too many women that are making $50,000 a year, demanding a man to make $1 million, and you've never made $1 million before. You've never made $500,000 before. Hell, you've never made $100,000 before.
So you're saying that a woman should only desire a millionaire if she's touched $1 million?
I'm saying be realistic with what you qualify for. Why would a millionaire, outside of beauty, why would a millionaire choose you?
Even if she's beautiful enough to be with a millionaire, what other qualities does she have to separate her from other beautiful women? Because there are lots and lots of beautiful women, but there are very, very few millionaires. And usually the more beautiful a woman is, the more entitled she is, the more narcissistic she is.
Now, there is a thing called hypergamy. Women choose at their level or higher. If I make $50,000 and he makes $85,000, that is hypergamy.
True.
He almost doubles what I make. That is still a man that can't survive. That is still a man that can show up for the house. That is still a man that can go. You could still go on trips with $135,000 a year for the normal person. You know, if your mortgage is $3,000 a month, you can do so much. You could do so much. Be clear about what is actually necessary for us to be happy. Because you can be happy with a good man that's not a millionaire. He doesn't have to make $500,000. A lot of these women don't even know what that lifestyle would be like. $500,000 is around $50,000 a month. What are you going to spend it on? And don't you dare say bags, because now you're not even a good, you're not even a good investment. You are a liability. If you just want me to make $50,000 so I could spend 20 of it on you and your lifestyle, you're not going to be chosen.
Okay guys, so we have here a few videos from a matchmaker. I want you guys to see the delusional standards that women have when they're trying to find a man. Let's hear it.
There's a woman who was a highly successful corporate lawyer, and she specifically said that she is looking for someone who is at her level or higher. She wants someone who's highly accomplished, who's extremely intellectual. Those are the most important things for her. Now, I connected her with someone who seemed to fit that bill and who also seemed extremely ambitious. And he was currently doing his MBA. And she declined him, saying that that's not enough for her. She wants someone who is highly accomplished. What she didn't know is that he was doing his MBA at Harvard Business School. He had written that information, like for me specifically, because he didn't want to write it publicly on his profile because he said he's had some bad experiences sharing that information outright.
I'm going to read off her profile and give you guys a chance to guess whether it's accepted or rejected, and you'll get a chance to guess the gender as well. This candidate is in their early 40s and never married. They grew up in South Asia and have been living in the UK for several years, and they're slightly above average in my opinion. Here are some snippets of their description and what they're looking for. I can take care of myself. I don't need someone to take care of me.
Really, from the start, no, she's a woman. Only a woman would say, I can take care of myself. And all adults in this world that have a job, that have a home, even if it's rented, they can take care of themselves. If you're not homeless, you should be able to take care of yourself. That's not some accomplishment. So from the start, guys, we all know it's a woman.
I've tried apps, but I found that many people on there are not serious. A lot of them are not looking for anything meaningful, and some are dishonest, which has made the process frustrating for me.
It's because they're looking for the top percentages of guys, man. And those guys have all the options. And you're just one of the options, they're not special.
Now, when it comes to marriage, I know what I want, but I'm also realistic in some areas. I want a hot partner. In terms of my priorities, I want to be very clear. I'm prioritizing youth and beauty over